Hello, everybody. Thank you for returning to our YouTube channel. I am here with one of the representatives, James from Birds of Fury, also known as Angry Birds in Ukrainian. They can't use it because of a game conflict thing. I don't know. But so we are now partnered, as you all know, together. He is part of the Ukrainian Armed Forces. It's an elite research and development group he belongs to. So together we make innovative technologies for the Ukrainian Armed Forces. If you want to join us, link is in the description to his YouTube channel, to the Birds of Fury, and to Technology United for Ukraine. Come on there. Awesome. If you go on Technology United for Ukraine, Phil, just send us an email and then we will get you set up and involved with a bunch of projects. So let's get right into this, James.
Yeah,
you have some things you wanted to talk about.
Yeah, well, we're going to talk about everybody's talking about these fiber optic drones today. And, you know, my background in the United States as a network engineer, I've pulled, you know, kilometers. I don't know how many kilometers, like miles. Sorry, I've been in Europe a long time. I say kilometers now, but probably hundreds of miles of fiber optic in my day. And it's just so interesting that these skills that I developed in the U.S., I'm using them now for a very different purpose. It's very interesting. So there are some things that we can bring up. One of the articles, there's a lot of stuff about in the Ukraine.
Do you see the article?
No.
Did I share it? Can you see it?
No.
Okay, let me just make sure I got to go off this screen. My bad, everyone. Here we go.
There we go.
All right, now you can see it.
Yeah. So what? Oh yeah. So this is from January 1st. So this is an article from today.
Mm-hmm.
And if you guys don't know what a fiber optic cable is, it's very interesting that a lot of Americans may not even know what fiber optic cable is because it's so uncommon. In the United States, I have fiber optic cable in my crappy Ukrainian apartment in the middle of nowhere. Okay. I have fiber optic cable coming into my home here with gigabit capacity. Okay. And most people, I would say most people who have internet here in Ukraine now, it's supplied by fiber optic. You know, so what fiber optic is, it's actually glass. It's actually glass fibers that is literally the width of a human hair. And so even though it's glass at that small size, it's very well protected and it's actually flexible. You can't bend it too much, but you know, within a radius of about like this, maybe like that, you can actually bend it without breaking. And you can pull it, you know, pretty hard. And so that's what in this picture here, the drone, it's on a little stand in the snow there. And I know this is a very, very recent picture because I know how often, how recently and where it has snowed here in Ukraine. And so this is definitely somewhere up in the Kiev area and quite recent. So that canister that you see there is about 10 kilometers of fiber, and it's fiber that is stripped down to just the bare essentials. So normally when you have fiber optic cable for internet purposes or whatever, it's a little bit thicker. It might be anywhere from, you know, a few millimeters to even like a quarter inch thick. So it has some protective shielding. This stuff has almost no or no protective shielding. Okay. And it transmits data. It transmits data at an extremely fast speed. And doing this, the drone doesn't need wireless control. It doesn't need Wi-Fi, essentially. Now, in the U.S. Army, they've been using this for artillery since what, the 1990s.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes perfect sense that that Ukraine would adapt it. Now, here's the thing, okay? Ukraine and I understand actually, Brian,
Mhm,
technology for Ukraine were the
mhm,
guys who really
mhm,
pioneered this and
mhm,
developed the capabilities for it. But the
mhm,
the irony is, here's the thing: Russia, this all they are able to do is copy, you know.
mhm.
But they have because they have this command economy. As soon as they copy an idea, then boy, they scale that and they just
Yep.
build literally a million of that thing. And they did that with the Shahed drones, and they done
Yep.
that with stuff that with the Gerbera drones that China gave them first.
Mhm.
And so Ukraine just doesn't have that sort of manufacturing capacity. Um,
And
and
I'll
so
say one thing here,
yeah,
just that's it, just so everyone knows. See this cone? That is our invention. So this
yeah,
drone here likely came from one of our partners over in Ukraine. But this has since been evolved. But
yeah.
I just wanted to state a little information about this drone right there.
Yeah, no, that's really important, really important. Um, so what's interesting to me is that Russia's been using these drones actively since the summer, and very effectively, and it's been
Mhm.
really,
And
uh,
even before that, so when we started it, it was a recovered fiber drone from probably over a year ago.
yeah,
But it was a real cruddy one. It was
yeah,
somebody had really just you had to see it. There's old photos of it. But
yeah,
yeah, so they had started experimenting about a year ago, a little over a year
right,
ago.
right. So this is a classic example of Ukraine has the innovation, um, and is always one step ahead, but if Russia can bring it to to use the term, bring it to market faster, um, and they latch on to one idea and then they do that. Now, I do think that in some ways Russia's drones that they were already using had a certain advantage that lent itself to uh, being able to use it with fiber optic drones, and it's this is something that has caused, as I understand it, has caused problems with the Ukrainian development of fiber optic drones. And let me explain. Russian drones, until quite recently, were often made, and I've handled many of them. They're often made of aluminum. Okay, so like the same pattern like you see in this picture, right? But heavy, clunky aluminum, um, or just like weird shapes, and that's been the case since about 2014. Um, they didn't like the super lightweight um, uh, carbon fiber was not as common, and that again that's part of the scaling issue. They can chunk out a thousand um, aluminum drone frames a day, and those things are slower and clunkier and don't have as much range and are not as nimble. Okay, but they can churn out a thousand of them a freaking minute, right? Whereas carbon fiber frames are much more expensive, but they give you a much lighter weight drone. They save a lot. They save a lot on the weight, and they make the drone a lot more nimble in its handling and more accurate in these things. Now, so that put Russian drones most of them at a disadvantage to Ukrainian drones historically. But now, with the fiber optic canisters, you can see there in this picture, you can just see, right? Um, it's just simple law of physics that if you have something that is further away from you, it takes more force to move it, to rotate it, you know? And so this 10 kilometers of fiber puts, just like the batteries put stress on the frame. Well, the 10 kilometers of fiber, and it's also hanging, you got 10 kilometers of fiber hanging down. That puts stress on the frame and additional stress on the motors. So you need more powerful motors, and you need a more stable frame. And that's the thing about the aluminum frames, is they might be heavy, they might be clunky, but they are more stable. They're less flexible. And so I think that in this case, the Russian disadvantage lent itself to them being able to develop these fiber optic drones and scale them faster. And so one thing that I know that some of these units are struggling with, like you see here, is they're trying to take the lightweight carbon fiber frames that they've been using and just slap this thing. It's not even about the weight so much. It's like, even if you have a light weight, if it's far away from you, that centripetal force gets multiplied, and so I can't tell you exactly what, but we were discussing this previously. I'm hoping that my I'm not going to give too much away, but my the unit that I'm working with will be able to solve those problems, so that this can be scaled effectively for Ukraine. We will see in the very near future.
A lot of the stuff, and we're working now in conjunction with you guys, and a lot of the big problems we've solved, but what you're talking about, the problems with the fiber end of everything, it's the drone problem is what we're working together with you guys to figure out. And there's still some more challenges with the fiber drone. So I think but I just wanted to spell a myth here, because everybody has this idea. I can show you a video of our first generation fiber drone before we put this thing on here. But before I do that, people say, well, all the Russians have to do is follow back the fiber string. And I'm like, that would be a dream. That would be called fishing for Russians. And the reason why it's almost impossible to do is this thing's flying out 20 kilometers.
Oh, yeah.
The fiber is as thin as your hair, so it's really hard to see, and it's getting laid across trees.
And they don't have to follow a straight path either. So
no, and they don't. Typically, they're turning here and there. And the other problem is, if you do follow it back, now you remember the operators are behind lines, so they're not up in Russian territory. You're going to follow it, and you're going to have to cross minefields. There are going to be drones targeting you, artillery. And then if you make it to the trenches, then you're going to get shot up by the guys in the trenches. So it would be a bad idea to follow the string.
Well, like I was saying before, as a network engineer, I've worked with a lot of fiber optic. And I can tell you, just trying to follow the path of fiber optic through a school building is difficult enough, much less, I've done that, trying to follow it, pull it, follow it along, figure out where it comes from, where it goes. Oh God, no, it's not as easy as that, folks. Sorry.
I will show you the original video if you'd like to see it of the very first generation. Now this has a very high-tech cone on it and a lot of stuff like that. So it's gone through a lot of modifications since then. Here we go. So this would be it taking off. This is us in Ukraine.
All right, here we go. We're going to get this fiber off.
Let me do this. Let me get out of anything that we
nice. I like how you've got it set in between two boxes.
Yes, that was in the original before we had stands.
Slower.
There it is right there. See it right there?
Yeah.
Now you guys are going to see something special. I will pause it. And this is before the cone. We had these little things on the back to keep it from.
Nope.
So as it gets right about.
One move. Don't move.
Boom, up right there. You see it spit out the fiber? You can see it in the light. And let's see if I can.
Move. Don't move.
I can't get it up there. But you can see it come out the back. This was the original idea. See these little arms on it?
Yep.
Then we turned
Yep.
this into a cone. And we flew this around for quite a long time until we were testing it. It was a 10-kilometer flight, but that was the first generation.
Well, and this is, the fiber comes in these spools from the factory, essentially.
Yes. That was just on a factory spool.
Yeah, so that's why we've got this, kind of maybe somebody will come up with some other way to carry the fiber and distribute the fiber, but you got to figure it's a one-time use thing. You don't want to spend too much money on something that's just gonna, spew out the fiber and that's the end of your thing. But yeah, it's definitely, an adjustment for FPV pilots who might be they're accustomed to something that's, a lot more nimble. But the flip side of that, there's a couple of things to consider. First of all, what Russian fiber drone pilots are doing is they're able to, because it's fiber, it's not going to use a lot of data. They can actually land the thing. And so they can land it at a crossroad somewhere where they know the Ukrainians are going to be coming. And then it just sits there and it's in like a waiting mode using very little power. And they can't send power down the fiber optic. Okay. That's not something that would require a copper wire, which would be much, much more expensive.
Very heavy.
and much more heavy. Yeah, way heavier. But it can be in kind of like a low power mode with the engines not running, sitting up on, like a rooftop or someplace. And then so it's a real danger. It's almost like a remote mine kind of a situation. And it's making things real difficult, especially for advancement. It makes it really difficult for the Ukrainians to advance. And but here's something else that I really want to bring up that I think is important to consider. And this is an advantage that Ukraine has that Russia does not, and that Russia cannot have. As I was saying at the beginning, Ukraine has this really vast and very well developed fiber optic infrastructure across the whole country. It's crazy to say this, but I've never had better internet or cheaper than living in the middle of nowhere in a war zone. Okay. I had, when I worked at freaking NASA, the fastest internet I could get was 12 megabits, and it cost me $108 a month. And it took me 6 months just to get a gigabit fiber pulled into NASA Ames Research Center. Okay. And it cost $4,000 and like $4,000 a month for gigabit fiber. Here I pay 500 hryvnias a month for gigabit fiber. That's like $10 a month for gigabit internet. So and there's like, I could throw a rock and hit an internet service provider. Okay. There's at least 5 in a 10-kilometer radius around me that I could call up and say, hey, I need internet. Get me here tomorrow. Honestly, that's how good it is. Now, here's the thing. The American military, okay, has been operating drones for like 20 years. And they can kill a terrorist using some guy sitting in Chicago or on some base somewhere in the United States, and he can kill somebody in Afghanistan or freaking Abu Dhabi, wherever the hell they want.
Right.
Okay. There's no reason that Ukraine can't do that. Okay. So these fiber optic drones, instead of having the operator, sitting there operating the fiber optic drone 10 kilometers from, its target, the operator could be sitting in Kiev on his sofa, and that's the potential here. So in other words, and this is kind of the thing that, Magyar has been talking about this, and Azov Brigade, their drone units have been talking about this. They're trying to move the drone operator further and further away from the battlefield, because every time you lose a drone operator, that's like a month of training, and setting aside the human tragedy, obviously, and I've had friends who have died, who've been shelled or struck with lancets, and it's not just one.
It's like what you're saying. How do you replace somebody with a year of experience on the combat?
Right.
Like,
it's a big deal.
The wisdom and all of that's gone.
It's
the
not.
institutional knowledge.
It's a big deal. It's a big deal. So now there are issues. There are hurdles to what I'm just describing to you right now. But there's no reason that your average tech guy in Kiev, who maybe has been avoiding, he's hiding from the recruiters, sitting in his apartment. There's no reason that he couldn't come home from work every day, sit down at his, big widescreen TV, flip on, his PlayStation effectively controller, and for a couple hours before dinner, kill some Russians. Okay? That's the kind of thing that Russia can't do, that because they don't have that internet infrastructure, not in the occupied territories, and not in even in Russian territory. They haven't invested in their infrastructure in that way. And so this is where, ironically, these fiber optic drones, if Ukraine can scale them properly, will be a real game changer, I think. Because what would happen if all of a sudden the drone force, I don't need to put on a uniform. I don't need to go through a month of basic training. I don't even need to do any of that. I can just, I think that the Ukrainians would actually pay money. Like, they'll get a subscription to the drone service. We're really talking about that. That's the kind of, innovation that we're going for here. So,
right.
Yeah.
and it's a big thing with us being able to bring in experts around the world with Technology United for Ukraine to help you with this. I mean, our chief engineer, that's what he owns. He owns networks, these towers that are I believe they're fiber optically fed, but he's got these I forget, network towers that he owns all over Canada. So you bring these extra expertise that can come in. We have a world-leading expert on fiber optics. One of my other engineers, chief engineers, is, well, I should say, one of my engineering architects who work under the chief engineer, but he's a world-renowned fiber optic expert. He's worked in all kinds of weapon systems. So this is why anybody out there, come join us. Work with the Birds of Fury. Work with us. I mean, let's build this. Let's make this happen, and let's bring the resources and knowledge in that Ukraine needs. We can change this war overnight, literally, with people's efforts.
That's right. That's right. That's right. It's so important, and I just want to thank you, Brian, for getting in touch with us and bringing all of these people together. Because people sit back and they think, oh, I can't do anything. Nobody, what can I do? I feel really bad. But, well, guess what? Now here's your opportunity,
Absolutely. Look at me and you. Here we are, two American guys. I mean, we're fairly significant people on the planet. Like,
right.
We're in military geniuses, or I'm not even an engineer. And I built a whole 200 plus engineers from around the world. You're over there leading a significant R&D public relations campaign for the Ukrainian armed forces. I mean, anybody with an idea, and if you have that tenacity, you have the want to do something great, come and join us and do your great thing with us. You can change human history, because this war, win, lose, or draw, will change the future of human history. So,
For
you
sure.
know, this is the
For sure.
reality.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. Well, very cool. So now you guys have some knowledge you didn't have before, I think. I hope that I hope your viewers can. Yeah. By the way, this is my website, whyukraine.com. If you'd like to support the work that I'm doing on my channel, I do a lot of different fundraisers for different units. Right now, I've just got me up there, but you know, in the past and in the future, I'll once I've got my unit's website integrated. That's the Zlizbir or
Unit
Zliptahi.
here.
Yeah, Zliptahi. That this is the manufacturer that makes the UAVs. Who you know I work as a consultant with, and this is our primary product that we do. So and one of the big things that I'm helping them with is you know, there's such a need. There really is a need for this type of a product in the United States. Not necessarily as a military, but these are long range bombers that don't require human interaction. They're pre-programmed essentially. They're not AI or anything like that, so it's not like the Matrix. But these could, you know, in our case, we were using them to drop bombs on Russian logistics, but they could be used to deliver humanitarian supplies to remote places. It could be used for all sorts of life saving. I have a plan to adapt these for fighting fires in extreme remote areas, like in the California forest fires and things like that. Not to carry water, right? Not to carry water, but actually to carry small ping pong ball incendiary devices that firefighters use these to backburn, essentially. So in other words, they'll go in a helicopter in front of a fire and backburn in the opposite direction to stop the fire going in a specific direction. And helicopters can be, you know, like $75,000 per hour to fly or something like that. And, you know, we can build these for like $50,000 a piece. And they can, you know, they can be used 50, 100 times basically. And they have about 100-kilometer range. That's a 70-mile range. So in other words, in a round trip, you could have, so in other words, if they were to be used for like firefighting, it would take the human risk factor out of flying into these remote areas with smoke, with a helicopter. These can fly right through all of that with no problem. And even if they crash, you're not risking human life. So this is some of the applications we're looking at, you know, post-war, actually.
A lot to be thought about that rebuilding. You know, that's going to be another big topic. And, you know, there's going to be a campaign coming up soon, guys, where, you know, donate to a lot of these platforms, the fiber drones, these type of platforms, so we can accelerate. You know, we want to work with other nonprofits. If you're a nonprofit out there and you want to join us in raising the funds to help support this unit, the Birds of Fury, please reach out to us. We'd love to bring you on board. We'd love to work, because this goes directly to impacting the battlefield. This money will go right to it, to the military unit. There is no middle people. There is no nothing. And, you know, if you want something like this to be put out in front of the Russians, they can do that. You want a fiber drone, we can do that. But your funds will go right to impacting the front lines.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, so fantastic. And thank you all for watching this video. I hope you've been enlightened. Thanks for coming to Why Ukraine and Technology for Ukraine. Go check out our websites and help us if you can.
Absolutely. Slava Ukraini, everyone.
До побачення.